When it comes to getting high engagement on Instagram, like more likes and comments on your post, how much do the actual visuals of the image that you choose to post have an impact on that engagement rate? If you've watched my channel for a while, then you know that I love to talk about how to write engaging captions and how to use an engagement strategy in order to increase your engagement rate on Instagram. But something that I don't talk about very often is the actual imagery of the photos that you're posting to Instagram and the impact that they have on the performance of your post. Is there an exact formula for the kind of image that will get you more likes on Instagram? That is exactly what I want to find out. Today we are going to find out the exact factors that go into creating the perfect photo for an Instagram post and how you can use these strategies to grab your followers' attention and increase your engagement rate. I know how to interpret my own Instagram insights to figure out what kind of images are resonating most with my audience, but what I'm in search for today is some universal principles that can apply to anybody on Instagram that will help them improve the photos that they're posting. Let's just say this, in my research, I found out there is a lot of interesting and kind of dubious advice out there about this. What I was looking for is some kind of study with evidence to back up their claims about what kind of photographs perform well on Instagram, but what I found was actually a lot of correlation masquerading as causation in these articles. Plus, a lot of the studies that I was finding were not even about the imagery of the Instagram post to begin with. With a quick Google search of what kind of photos do well on Instagram, you'll start to find a lot of articles with very weird advice about how to make your Instagram post perform well. For instance, I found one article that claimed that because the heart eye emoji is the most popular one on Instagram, if you use it in your post, you'll get more likes on those posts. Along with a lot of other strange advice that personally does not line up with what I have seen to perform well, such as keeping your captions under 10 words and using hashtags every other word. Anyway, the point of this experiment, though, is not weird caption strategies. What we're trying to find out is what kind of images grab people's attention and make them tap like. Then finally, I came across an article that was about the visual psychology of Instagram photos. This is exactly what I was trying to find. The article talked about a lot of principles of visual marketing and what kind of imagery is proven to grab people's attention and intrigue them. After going through the article, I found 3 main claims that I want to test in my experiment. Number 1, don't use too many colors. Try to stick to a color scheme of 1 or 2 main colors in each photo. Number 2, make sure that the scene is obvious to the viewer. Don't make them guess at what they're looking at, and try to have clean and minimal scenery to make the subject shine. The important thing here is that within a millisecond of viewing this image, the viewer knows exactly what they're looking at. Number 3, use colors that are recognizable to your brand to create that instant brand recognition with your followers. The article that I read claimed that these are the components that go into a successful Instagram photo that is more likely to get more engagement from your followers. So in this video, I am going to test those claims and see if they actually work. Now that we know how we're going to test for what kind of photos perform well on Instagram, it's time to design our experiment. In order to see if these factors truly impact the performance of my Instagram post, I'm going to need not only a test group of images that follow these parameters, but also a control group of images that are more similar to just my typical Instagram posts. So the plan is I'm going to go out and take 3 photos in each group, 3 test photos that follow along those 3 factors that the article claims create a successful Instagram post, as well as 3 images that are just the kind of Instagram photos that I might take if I'm out for a walk one day. In order to keep this experiment as fair as possible, I'm going to create images in pairs where one is in the test group and one is in the control group. So we're going to try to keep the framing and the subject matter of the image pretty consistent between the control photo and the test photo so that we can try to isolate this experiment to look at just the factors that we're testing. We're going to try our best with this, knowing that this experiment is by no means scientific, and we're just trying to see if we find trends in my Instagram insights. In addition to the similarity of the images with the exception of those 3 factors, I'm also going to try to keep the captions and the hashtag strategy consistent across all 6 photos to try not to give an advantage to one post or the other that isn't in relation to the actual image itself. However, the captions are not going to be identical. These aren't going to all be posted on the same day because I am using my Instagram to run this experiment and I don't really want to ruin it. I still want to be able to provide good content throughout this experiment, so I'm just saying right now it's not going to be totally perfect, but I do think we are going to still have some interesting conclusions to draw at the end of the experiment. All right, so we've got 6 photos. 3 that follow our factors for success and 3 that are in our control group. With that experiment in mind, let's go out and take some photos. Since it is beautiful out today and I feel like I've already photographed every single inch of this 500 square foot apartment, we are gonna head outside on a bit of an adventure to find some locations to take these test photos. Let's go. So for this first photo that we're taking, I found a plain white brick wall that I'm gonna stand in front of. For my outfit, I've got my red lipstick, of course, because you know I love my red lipstick. I'm also wearing this top from Outdoor Voices, which somewhat matches the red of the helmet. So the idea here is to go along with the parameters of having very few prominent colors in the photo. So we're going with just red and white basically. And also this perfectly matches my established branding, which is also one of the suggestions from the study. So everybody knows how much I love red. So hopefully that will help this image stand out on the feed as well. Also, it's a very simple background and the scene should be very easy to interpret for the viewer as soon as they see the image. So we're keeping it minimal, very clear colors, and also keeping it on brand. So that's this first photo. All right, so that is photo number 1 finished. So for the next photo we're gonna take, we're just gonna look around this area and find a cute place to take a photo the same way I would normally take an Instagram photo. And this is for our control group of images. So we're not gonna worry about these suggestions and just take a fun photo, and we'll see how it compares when we post it on Instagram later this week. All right, that's it for these photos. Now we're gonna head over to our next location. But before we get our next photos, I have to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, FAVES. You may not have heard of FAVES and their helmets before, but I have been a fan for years. FAVES is a female-founded company based in Los Angeles that has a mission of creating bike helmets that people actually want to wear. Not gonna lie, before I had my FAVES helmet, I always avoided wearing a bike helmet because I thought they looked dorky. But now that I have my awesome FAVES helmet, I'm actually motivated to go biking because I have a cool helmet to wear. In addition to being a female-founded company, which I love, I also love FAVES because of their commitment to sustainability. They have a partnership with 1% for the Planet and a carbon offset program. From the impeccable design to the beautiful vegan leather straps and the super easy magnetic clasp, there's a lot to love about these helmets, and they are the perfect addition to a little biking adventure to go and take Instagram photos. So if you want to grab a FAVES helmet for yourself, you should definitely check out the link in the description below.
Work it, kiddo.
After capturing all the photos and editing them in Lightroom, I proceeded to schedule them in Later, which is my favorite scheduling app. I wrote all the captions for the posts, added the hashtags, and then scheduled them in. Then throughout the week, I would post them as I got my notification to post it every day at noon, and at that same time, I would record the stats from the previous day's post. Alright, it's been a week of posting the 6 images that I captured for this experiment. Now let's take a look at my insights and see what we've learned. In total, like I said, we captured 6 images, 3 that followed along with the guidelines of visual psychology that we found online, and 3 that are a part of our control group. To be clear, the purpose of the control group isn't to make a set of bad images or photos that I don't think would get likes on Instagram, but rather the point of the control group is to take photos for Instagram as I normally would, just without thinking about these new guidelines that I've recently learned. So it's meant to simulate the kind of photos that I have been taking over the past number of months, just well framed, well compositioned, nice colors, all that kind of stuff, but just not taking into consideration these 3 specific guidelines that we've just recently learned. And so the test group versus the control group is meant to compare these very specific guidelines versus just taking generally good photos for Instagram. And so through this experiment, hopefully we'll find out if these 3 specific guidelines in particular have an impact on how many likes a photo gets. Okay, with that being said, let's take a look at the photos that we took. Here are the 3 images that are part of the test group. As you can see, we really focused on taking photos that had just 1 or 2 main colors in the photo, so very simple color scheme, as well as an image that is very easily recognizable and really fast to interpret when you're scrolling along on Instagram and you just see the image, you want to know right away what that photo is of. And then of course the third component is using colors that are familiar to my brand. So you'll notice that we have 3 main colors here. We have the red, the teal, and then a sort of sagey green. Those are the 3 colors that you'll often see on my Instagram. And then of course we have their control group counterparts. So as you can see, I took 2 photos in each outfit. So I sort of have a partner photo to each test group photo. And like I said, these photos aren't meant to be unlikable or whatever. They're just the kind of images that I would take if I was out and about and I thought, oh, I want to take an Instagram photo today. You can see that they don't have a minimal color palette. There is sort of a variety of colors in both of them. In some of them, the exact scene is not that obvious. It might be like a really busy wall where you can't exactly tell what I'm standing in front of, or there's just lots of buildings and scenery in the background that sort of makes it a little less easy to interpret quickly. And of course, we've also got a variety of colors here that aren't necessarily associated with my brand. But nonetheless, I think they're all, good photos. So that it's easy for you to see, I'm just going to quickly add a yellow border behind the photos that were part of the test group. So these are the photos that we are expecting to have a higher number of likes. All right, now let's reveal the number of likes and sort them out in order from highest to lowest likes. As you can see, not super shocking results. This is kind of what we anticipated, but I still find it really intriguing. As you can see, all of our test group images outperformed our control group images in terms of likes. Not by a huge margin, but still they all consistently got more likes. Now at this point you might be wondering why we're only talking about likes when there obviously are lots of other important indicators of engagement, and I want to tell you why. My personal theory, or the way I see Instagram strategy, is that each different kind of engagement is a success indicator for a different component of the post. So in my opinion, likes are the most clear success indicator of the actual visual component of the post, the photo or the image. And this is why. I think most people, when they're scrolling through Instagram, the reason why they like a post is usually because the photo catches their eye, it's particularly beautiful or interesting or intriguing to them, and so they double tap. On the other hand, I think comments are actually more likely to be a success indicator of the caption, because I think most people end up commenting on an Instagram post because the caption was interesting to them or gave them some kind of call to action that prompted them to comment. On the other hand, sharing is obviously a direct indicator of how shareable the post is. Maybe it's a quote, some kind of infographic, something that people think that their own audience would find valuable and therefore they share it, and saves is a very similar thing. So that's why for this experiment, I'm more focused on likes, because I really do think that likes are a more clear indicator of the quality of the image rather than the post as a whole. If we were talking about the success of captions, then I would be looking at the number of comments. However, while I think that likes are the most important success indicator in this particular experiment, I did record the other insights along with these posts, and you can see that they vary a lot. Some of these posts have a lot of shares and saves, and in this particular example, it's indicative of the fact that I included this shareable infographic. I saw people sharing this to their story because they found it impactful or inspiring and wanted to share it with their audience as well. That being said, it's important to note that these photos were not posted alone. Almost all of them were in a carousel post with some other graphic that is a little bit shareable or provides some more context to the content of the caption. Like I was saying earlier, this is my actual Instagram, and so I wanted to make sure that I was still providing valuable and interesting content and not just posting these photos to see what would happen. And I also think that makes it a more honest experiment because it's more representative of how I normally post on Instagram. So for some of these images, they were accompanied by some kind of graph or infographic or whatever that illustrated the point of the caption. And that is where I think we see the variation in the comments and the shares, because those are sort of indicative of how successful the caption or the additional content of that post was. All of this is to say, I think it's very clear that there are so many different factors when it comes to the success of an Instagram post, and the visuals, the actual photo, is just one of those components. However, I do think this experiment has shown us that there are some strategies you can use to make sure that your photo is doing the best job that it can at catching people's attention and getting them to like your post. And just to recap, these guidelines are choosing a minimal color scheme of 1 to 2 colors, making sure the scene is really obvious and easy to interpret for the viewer, and finally, using colors that are recognizable to your brand. By implementing these guidelines, I honestly do think that you will see an increase in the number of likes on your photos. Because here's the thing, these 3 guidelines that we've been experimenting with in this video are not some crazy, wild, secret formula for creating the perfect Instagram post. When you think about it, they really are just the common sense of creating a good image that is going to capture the attention of your followers. So when it comes down to it, I really think that you would see an increase in the number of likes on your photos just simply by putting in a little bit more intention and thoughtfulness around the composition and the colors and the subject matter of your images. When you're taking your photos, if you just really think about the fact that the purpose of that image is to catch your followers' attention, communicate to them immediately that it's you, either through using your brand colors or something else that's recognizable about you, and therefore getting them to stop and read your caption. That is the purpose of a photo on Instagram. And so if you can just keep that in mind every time you take a photo and think about how you're going to do that with this particular image, I really do think that that is going to help your strategy as a whole. So even though this experiment wasn't totally groundbreaking, and honestly I think the results are pretty similar to what many of us would have anticipated, it still is a really interesting study into what components of an Instagram post actually are contributing to its success, and it's a good reminder for us all to be very intentional and thoughtful about how we're crafting images that not only capture our audience's attention but also serve them in some way and provide value to them. In addition to using these strategies to make sure that you are optimizing your Instagram photos to get more engagement, a good Instagram strategy is not complete without a solid approach for creating awesome, view-worthy Instagram stories. And I just so happen to have a video about that exact topic that you're definitely going to want to watch next. This is my complete holistic approach to creating Instagram stories that are going to get more reach and engagement. So make sure you click here to watch that video next, and on your way out, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. As always, thank you so much for watching, and once again, a big thanks to 1000 for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in this video. Okay, bye!